What is up guys, Deadset here. Patch 2.12 sees the rise of Condemn to an even stronger form, aided by the slowing of damage scaling as well as the increase of monster density in greater rifts. Let me walk you through the build. Your strategy when playing the Condemn build is to stay indefinitely in Akarat's champion form, through the account set and cooldown reduction, continuously spam Condemn to keep your Taeguk stacks at maximum and maintain your intense resource costs with Unstoppable Force, Provoke and Slash. Mobility is a key part of the playstyle that excels in mass clearing of trash mobs for its greater rift progression. Stopping in place not only lessens your damage output by denying you the strong arm bracer proc, but also exposes you to unbearable amounts of damage. Moving in irregular curved patterns should become second nature, and if you truly get stuck, Iron Skin with Flash will be there to protect you and set you free. The primary damage dealer of the build, Condemn, takes on a crowd controlling role with Vacuum. This rune choice not only procs the strong arm bracer, but also the Bane of the Trap legendary gem, further amplifying the damage potential of the build at the cost of a 3-second wind-up. Needless to say, in high progression environments, this skill can expose you to a lot of danger as well, easily grouping entire screens of enemies on top of you. The lesson to be learned with Condemn is to always be on the move and on the lookout for big packs of trash enemies to fuel your progression, while elites are to be killed as collateral damage or even outright avoided if they have unfavorable affixes such as electrified, reflect damage and to a certain extent fire chains. Your stalwart source of protection is found in the signature Crusader steroid, Akarat's champion. Once you reach the comfortable 56% cooldown reduction threshold, you can maintain Akarat's champion form indefinitely. While it inherently increases your damage by 35% and supplies you with 5 wrath per second, the skill also takes on a defensive role through the tanky Prophet rune, supplying you with 150% additional armor and a free life. This skill will juggle nicely with the indestructible passive to keep you safe and alive in high greater rifts. Sometimes, however, even Prophet is not enough. You can easily bite off more than you can chew with a misplaced vacuum, and at times you just have to face tank an affix or a Rift Guardian in hopes to progress. Iron Skin will serve as your second line of defense, cutting incoming damage in half. With the additional utility of the Flash rune, it will also speed you up and remove collision, the latter of which saves you whenever Condemn gets you stuck. There is a notable variation in the gearing of this build that takes the Illusory Boots for the same reason, freeing up the skill slot for whatever additional utility you see fit. Additional safety with the Steel Skin rune, crowd control through Shield Glare, or superior mobility through Steed Charge are all viable variants here. At a hefty 40 Wrath per cast, Condemn will quickly deplete your Wrath. Thus, a significant part of the build is dedicated to either mitigating the costs or replenishing your reserves. On the mitigation front, we have Laws of Valor. While the attack speed buff of the law has limited utility outside of faster slash swings, it becomes invaluable for the 50% resource cost reduction of the Unstoppable Force rune. Due to the prolonged nature of greater rift fights, where enemies get tougher and tougher, and with the need to constantly spend wrath to keep the Taeguk stacks maxed out, this skill transcends the optional category and becomes a dire necessity. Lowering the cost can only get you so far, however. Eventually you'll have to regain wrath, and that is accomplished in a threefold manner. We've already mentioned the passive 5 per second regeneration of Akarat's champion. It is bolstered by both a cooldown and a generator skill. The former is Provoke, a Swiss knife of a skill that is the only cooldown with inherent resource generation. It has a way of keeping fleeting enemies nearby with its taunt function, and added utility on top with Too Scared to Run. This rune turns Provoke into a powerful percentage-based debuff with excellent uptime. The improved density in greater rifts further emphasizes the value of Provoke, and you would be hard-pressed to find a competing source of wrath. You could only ever consider Shield Glare with Zealous Glare for the hard crowd control of the blind effect. Finally, a generator makes its way into the build as the third pillar of resource management. You have a number of options to choose from, the most common synergistic choice being Slash with the Zeal rune. appropriate with its holy damage, decent proc rate and attack speed utility to build up wrath faster. The Zeal rune is a fine starting point to experiment with. Quirkier options like the Electrify and Guard runes are also viable, as is the outright switch to Punish with Retaliate for pure single target damage, or Smite with Reaping for the added healing. This concludes the overview of the active skills. Now let us look through the passives. Heavenly Strength is the signature Crusader passive, allowing you to wield two-handed weapons in one hand and have a shield in the other. The current metagame and skill balance of Crusaders heavily favors two-handed setups, and the Blade of Prophecy wielding Condemn build is no exception. Finery is another Crusader staple, adding 1.5% strength for every socket across your gear, including weapons and jewelry. Assuming an average of 10 sockets across a well-equipped character, Finery amounts to a decent boost of both damage and toughness. Indestructible is a passive choice mostly oriented at the highly damaging environments of Greater Rift progression, where sudden spikes of damage can burst down both your natural and your prophet lives. A recent change made Indestructible proc second in the chain of on-death skills, with Prophet taking priority. The result is a noticeable boost to Crusader toughness, as Indestructible is on a longer 60-second cooldown compared to the 20 seconds for a Prophet reactivation. Our fourth and final passive will be Long Arm of the Law, which doubles the duration of the active effects of laws and ensures near permanent uptime of Unstoppable Force. Aided by this passive, you'll have an easy time keeping up your Taeguk stacks even during sections with fewer enemies or prolonged single-target fights. A competing alternative for this slot is Holy Cause, which synergizes elementally with the build for its healing side effect. More importantly, it provides decent 10% damage buff to a build that can make good use of any DPS not reliant on AoE. Holy Cause will, however, make Taeguk management uneven and prone to falling off, and keeping the stronger gem buff should be considered a priority. It is advisable to only take Holy Cause in Torment 6 farming, where Indestructible's value lessens and the focus shifts from toughness to killing speed. That about covers it for the build. Now let us go over the items. The backbone of every Condemned Crusader is, of course, the account set. Cooldown reduction takes priority on the slots where you can get it, certainly on the gloves, where it accompanies the crit stats, as well as on the shoulder. The latter will also serve as a source of skill damage, as Condemn percentage can be rolled on both the shoulder and the chest. The pants, boots and helm remain pure toughness slots where high vitality and all resistance rolls are ideal. You might be tempted to pick up Leoric's Crown as your helm of choice to double the effectiveness of the diamond gem, bridge your CDR gaps and reach easy 56%. For serious Greater Rift progression, however, it is strongly advised to perfect your cooldown reduction across gear and jewelry and only consider a variation on the boots. That variation would be picking up illusory boots from Act 2 bounty caches. This staple piece of the support Crusader bled into the DPS spec as well, as experienced Crusaders recognize the value of freedom of movement, especially with Vacuum's tendency to imprison you in a crowd of bloodthirsty mobs. Note, however, that this variation forces you to drop the significant damage boost from a Stone of Jordan, and complete your 6-piece account bonus through a Ring of Royal Grandeur. It is still certainly possible to finish the Greater Rift, but you'll have to rely even more on favorable enemies, pylons and Rift Guardians. Blade of Prophecy is the mandatory weapon for the playstyle, a two-handed sword tailored for a build based around Condemn. In patch 2.12, the tooltip has been clarified to properly indicate Condemn, triggering up to 2 more times with at least 2 targets present in the initial Condemn radius. Note that unlike Fate of the Fell, the Holy Shotgun build weapon, the Blade of Prophecy requires the additional targets to be present, making the build underperform in single target situations. Frider's Wrath is the former Season 1 exclusive shield that turns the otherwise cooldown based nature of Condemn into a spender, an extremely potent effect as proven by the Fires of Heaven rune from the Holy Shotgun build. Crit chance and cooldown reduction rolls on the Crusader shield are mandatory for an endgame setup, and you can boost your damage numbers with a Condemn percentage affix as well. Such shield rolls are hard to obtain, but with the rebalancing of damage scaling in Greater Rifts, a pure offensive roll has become the standard. The ideal belt for the build is the Vigilante. The only belt in the game that rolls cooldown reduction is a standard Crusader choice to fill the steep requirements for permanent Akarat's champion. Strong arms with high holy damage and unique property rolls are the best in slot bracer for the Condemn, as the vacuum rune will proc the additional damage on any enemy affected by the pull. While crafted Reaper's Wraps can ease your resource management further, that function is best assigned to skills, and you should take advantage of Strong Arm's damage amplifier. For your jewelry, a unity ring on yourself and your follower, along with an immortality relic for him, is mandatory for greater rifts above level 35. As for the second ring, you have two viable options: a straightforward elemental and elite damage choice with a holy damage stone of Jordan, or a ring of royal grandeur to fit the mobility-oriented illusory boots and the 6-piece set bonus of a Khan. Note that all rings should be socketed and have cooldown reduction. This is an imposing but much needed role on those slots, as your ultimate goal is to avoid leaning on Leoric's crown for CDR deficiencies. Aim for as perfect of a holy amulet as you can. The ideal rolls are crit chance, crit damage, holy elemental damage, and an open socket. The better of an amulet you get with these stats, the more strategies you can implement. For example, immunity amulets such as Mara's Kaleidoscope or the Zephyrian amulet allow you to ignore deadly affixes or entire Rift Guardians. A crafted Hellfire amulet, on the other hand, can allow you to take a free Holy Cause or Long Arm of the Law, answering more of your Crusader needs. Your 3 jewelry sockets will be taken up by the legendary gems Myrinae, Bane of the Trapped, and Taeguk. Bane of the Trapped is an extremely powerful choice, as it is its own multiplier in your total damage calculation. Myrinae scales with the holy damage on your gear to deliver devastating smites, even with the mediocre proc rate of Vacuum. Taeguk is a rare example of a legendary gem with defensive and offensive utility, and it fits the mechanics of the build, as Condemn has no casting animation, and you can keep building up the legendary gem stacks as you progress through the rifts. In the Paragon points, max out movement speed and spend the rest on strength in the core section. Prioritize cooldown reduction and then crit chance and crit damage in the offense. Resist all, life percentage and then armor in defense. And area damage, resource cost reduction and then life on hit in utility. And this is it for the Condemn Crusader build. I hope you enjoyed the guide, and if you did, I would appreciate your subscription to my channel. See me live at twitch.tv/thedeadset, talk to me on Twitter and Facebook that I linked below, and I'll see you guys next time.